Before we get started talking tonight, I wanted to share with you something that I don't do regularly, that I am trying to make more of a practice, is time in the Word. And I'm using Lent as kind of a pathway to help me get there. And I have been doing this study, and it's 47 days, and today I just loved the prayer that was voiced. And so I want to borrow that prayer, and I want to pray that for our time together tonight. The title of our study today in Lent was Come Quietly, which really spoke to me because I'm not a real quiet person. I'm not a real sit-still person. And what was shared through Scripture today just really spoke to me. And so I want to share that with you guys tonight. So if you will bow, and we'll ask God to bless our time. Father, you know us in secret, and you know all of our secrets. What we do to benefit your kingdom will not be lost if it is not seen by others. For you see and you reward according to your grace and mercy. Strengthen us to do good works, visibly or invisibly, but always in your name. Amen. Okay, it's been a while since we met, so what I want to do, this first part, I'm going to go through these slides rather quickly, the first few. If you weren't here the first time that I taught, then you just get a lucky 2 for bonus tonight. So way to go. Kudos to you. All right, the last time we met together, we started talking about developmental stages, which, if you remember, was very textbook and kind of got a little monotonous, but it's going to be so important for setting up our conversation for tonight. So developmental stages, ages 0 to 3 years. If you have a 0 to 3-year-old kiddo, this is kind of what to expect developmentally from them, okay? Now, if they're not there yet, nothing's wrong with your child. No alarm needs to go off in your head. This is just kind of an idea, okay? Awareness of the body, its features and functions. Awareness that a person has a separate identity from others. Awareness of differences between male and female. Sense of being safe. Trusting self and trusting others. Courage to experiment on one's own. Eating, walking, control of bowels and bladder. Okay, the key words to remember here: body, identity, control, safety, and trust. Okay? All right, parental tasks: provide healthy touch. Respond consistently to your child's basic physical and emotional needs. Keeping your child safe while beginning to let go. Affirming your child's natural curiosity and sense of experimentation. Toilet training. Providing information about differences of male and female. All right, now we're going to talk about some developmental stages from ages 4 to 9. Okay? Understanding his or her body and early essentials of self-care. Understand the basic biology of sex and reproduction. Begin to learn how to honestly express emotions. Become aware of unhealthy ways to use behaviors or substances as coping strategies. Explore male and female social relationships and friendship. Understand appropriate social boundaries. Experience the home as a safe place. Understand how to maintain the safety of his or her own body. And develop a sense of what is morally right and wrong. Our parenting tasks at this phase are monitoring and supervising your child's activities, instructing him or her in basic biology, providing opportunities to interact socially, providing safety in your home, recognizing the emotional roots of certain behavioral problems, helping your child process feelings, instructing him or her in God's moral design, affirming your child emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Okay? We talked about the music we play and kind of drew the parallel to the way we respond to our children when they bring up a sensitive topic with us. Really sets the tone for how that conversation is going to go, okay? And we talked about these points right here, and I'm not going to go over each one individually because you guys were here, and we went into more depth with that. And then we talked a little bit about this. We talked about the messages that we received as we were growing up, okay? Some of you guys, I really appreciate what you shared that evening, and I think it was good for us just to think about how we approach this topic with our kids and what we're bringing with us to the conversation, okay? We talked about our own body, or how you heard about your own body, you know, from parents or from advertisements or from magazines, whatever way you were first introduced to this conversation. Touch and the need for human affection. Gender roles, how girls and boys should behave. Dating and sexual attraction. Loving and intimate relationships. When it was okay to engage in sexual behavior. And kind of what you grew up knowing about sexual responsibility. We then took a look at the messages that we want to send to our kiddos, okay? We talked about how kids are learning every day from tons of different sources, whether that be computer, whether that be TV, whether that be magazines, whether that be billboards. And I want to talk just a short second about this because I was naive and proud enough to say, oh, well, we don't have cable at the McNeill house, and we really limit our internet access. So I think my kids are okay. When in all actuality, it wasn't just cable. It's not just computer, internet access. They are learning about sexuality as they're driving, as you guys are driving here to church, and they look over outside their window and there's a big billboard for Hooters. Or there's a big billboard for an alcoholic beverage with a girl just plastered, bigger than day right there, okay? So I don't want you to make the same mistake I made and think, oh, we're totally safe from this, because it's just the society we live in is very sexually charged, and we need to be aware of that, and we need to be on the proactive side rather than the reactive side. Okay, we don't have a choice about whether to teach sexuality, only how to teach it. Okay, and once again, we talked about some of those outside factors that come in with this. And then the last thing we talked about, that third point, are you an ASKable parent? And I actually, I have several resources kind of spread out on this front row, and we'll take a little bit to look at those closer towards the end of class. But I have a handout if you guys want. I made 40, so if you are a family unit, if you will just take one per family unit, that would be very helpful. This just goes through and talks about, I mean, it's very it's very basic on, are you an ASKable parent? But I really liked what it had to say. It really spoke to me because I started evaluating whether I was an ASKable parent. And harsh reality is that I'm not real approachable with my kids. And that was a bit of a tough pill to swallow because I want them to talk to me about anything and everything. And what came out in our conversation was, and this came out multiple times, Mom, you don't know what it's like. You don't know, you're not a kid now. You don't understand. You're not at school. Do you have any idea what I am, pounded with all the time? Well, no, I don't. It's been a little while since I've been in high school. The other thing that I got, which opened my eyes, is that, Mom, you do everything right. And it was really hard to keep a straight face because I know I mess up regularly. And so in the past month, I have actually been trying to take a step back and take a breather because, y'all, my personality is perfectionist to a default. And I am independent, and I want to do it myself, and I want it to be done exactly right, and I want it to be done perfect. And that is totally being seen by my kids. And so how are they going to come and approach me and say, man, I really messed up. Did you ever do this? Did you ever experience this? Because what they're getting is not that. They're getting that every decision made is right. So I have actually been reevaluating how I do things in a day, all the way from, and you guys are going to laugh, but all the way from eating. I've intentionally been trying to eat a little bit less healthy in front of my kids. I have actually been trying to take a couple of days off from exercise in front of my kids so that they know, because my default is to do it right, do it by the textbook, and so I want them to see I mess up too, and surely, those are two cheesy little things I'm trying to do. But anyway, are you an ASKable parent? All right, so tonight we're going to talk about sex, and we're going to talk about approaching this subject with our kiddos. Research is showing that we need to start introducing scientific terms before the age of 3. And there are several different schools of thought in this, and I can appreciate both of them. There is one school of thought that says, I want to keep my kids as pure and innocent and protected as long as I can. And I can appreciate that because that's where I was. And then there's a school of thought that says, our kids need to know because they're going to be exposed to it at some point. And we want to be the ones that are introducing that to them. Okay? Introducing those terms and the scientific terms. So I know age 3 sounds really, really early for a lot of you, but they are talking, they know their parts, they need to know proper scientific terms for those parts. And we'll discuss more about that in just a minute. Be aware of teachable moments and use them when they happen. Okay, a teachable moment. I'll give you an example from our house this week. And this is going back to those developmental stages. Laurel is curious. She is looking at her skin and noticing that there's hair on her arms. And she notices that boys have hair on their arms and girls have hair on their arms too. And also, one thing that she's noticing, I was fixing her hair And she said, Mom, can you stop fixing my hair for a second? And I said, okay. And I get my kids ready on a little dressing table that we have at our house, and not Catherine and Ethan, only Laurel and Ava. That'd be a little awkward. And so she scoots up, the mirror is on the wall, and she scoots up really close to the mirror, and I thought, what is she going to do? And she goes like this. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, did you know that God made us have hair in our nose? And I said, yeah. And she goes, we have hair on our arms, we have hair on in our nose. Why is there hair in our nose? And so we talked about, what the purpose is of hair in our nose. I'm not positive it was scientific. I said sometimes it's to help stop an embarrassing moment. But at any rate, she's curious. She is so curious. And all it took, all I said was, dust gets in our nose and boogers come out. And snot is all in there. And sometimes the hair catches it like a net. That was it. Okay? And she said, oh, okay. She was totally good with that answer. So, example of a teachable moment. Scientific, and I don't know so much, but that's why I get paid to do children's ministry, not doctor. So, anyway, okay, be aware of the teachable moments. Okay, practical advice. When your child begins to ask questions, because they will ask all kinds of questions. The following might make it easier for the both of you. Don't laugh or giggle, even if the question is cute. And a lot of times, those little 4-year-old, 3-year-old questions, they are really cute. And you want to be like, oh, you just asked that. Oh, that's really cute. Try to keep a poker face, which is not easy for me to do. Oh no, what happened? Okay. Try to keep a computer face. Okay. Oh, I thought I did.
No, power. You just lost power.
Oh, okay. Well, I brought my cord with me just in case.
Here's the teachable moment.
This is why I get paid to do children's ministry, not technology. Right, Hannah? Yes. Okay. Well, lucky for me, I know technology and I know myself. And I have my slides right here. So, all right. Don't laugh or giggle, even if the question is cute. You don't want to make your child feel embarrassed or ashamed for their curiosity. And you also don't want your child to think, ooh, I got some attention from that maybe was either positive or negative. I'm going to go a little bit further. Does that make sense? Okay. I know this is hard for several people. And like I shared with you guys last time, sex was an open shared topic in my household. It was not something that was hush-hush. It was not something that was quiet and embarrassing or dirty. It was open. And so this is not hard for me to talk about. It's not difficult for me to talk about having these conversations. It's not difficult for me to talk to my kids about it. As a matter of fact, they probably wish I quit talking to them about it. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. All right. Try not to appear overly embarrassed or serious about the matter, because kids will pick up on that. And this sounds totally cheesy, But if you have to practice having this conversation like in front of a mirror, sometimes that helps, because there are things that I'm not comfortable talking to my kids about, and I have had to practice in front of a mirror, and it's awkward and it's weird, but it makes it a little easier when you do that face to face with your kiddos. So be brief, don't go into a long explanation. Answer in simple terms. Your 4-year-old doesn't need to know the details of intercourse. Okay? The booger explanation, that was enough. There's hairs in our nose to catch the boogers. Okay, that was good. There you go. It's going to be the same as they're asking questions. You don't need to go into, with your younger ones, well, you see, when a mommy and a daddy love each other very much, and go into the long drawn out thing, because they will tune out quickly. Okay, be honest and use proper names for all body parts. I really want you guys, if you have younger ones, I really want you to hear me on this part, because this is really, really important. And actually, on a couple of these points, I'm going to refer to April Lemming. She is going to actually be coming March 11th, and then the week after spring break, which is March 25th. Is that right? Okay, she is from the Bridge. And she has a big title. She's an advocate for kiddos that have experienced abuse. She is phenomenal. She is fantastic. And she's going to talk more about this sensitive subject. And she's the expert, so I'm going to let her do her thing. But I will touch on a couple of things that that we have learned in going through training with her, and also listening to her present several times. The reason that I think it's so important for you to start sharing sexual terms with your child early on is because your child, number one, needs to know those scientific terms. Also, in the event that something happens, your child needs to be able to verbalize exactly what part has been touched. Okay, and April will give the example of a child that has come into their center before, and when she first was kind of telling an adult what was going on with her, she referred to her vagina as a kitty cat, and so she told an adult, my kitty cat is being touched. That did not send off an alarm in that adult's head immediately. And so that's why I think it's very important that these children hear these terms early on and know how to verbalize them and know that they are okay, not that there are nicknames for parts. So I want to share that with you guys just so you can kind of think that over in your head and think about how you're going to address that. Okay, see if your child wants or needs to know more. Follow up your answers with, does that answer your question? Because if it does, they'll say, yeah, and they'll move on, okay? The attention span, you guys who have little ones, it's about that long. You guys that have big ones, it's about that long. It's about the same attention span. So always follow it up with, does that answer your question? Listen to your child's responses and reactions, because just as we play music as we're talking to them, they are going to play it back to us. Be in tune with the tone of voice that your child is using and listen to how they're responding, okay? Be prepared to repeat yourself. I think we've had the story of how Laurel was born about 50 different times. And for those of you that do not know, I did a home birth with Laurel, and so it was a very open thing at our house. And Laurel likes to hear again and again and again why she was born at home and the others weren't, and how that happened, and how she got into my tummy, and so we are repeating that on a regular basis. Okay, questions to expect. Preschool children, ages 18 months. 18 months I feel is pretty early, to 3 years. Where was I before I got in your tummy? Okay, that's a common one. How did I get in your tummy? How did I get out? Where do babies come from? And how come girls don't have a penis? Now, if you have the answers to any of these, you are more than welcome to now come up and you will take over this section of the class. I'm just kidding. These are very normal questions to expect, okay? Especially if you have male and female children around the same age, and there's a shared bathroom. This is a question. If you have a male and female child and they see a diaper change taking place, it's going to be asked, why do they have that and I don't? Okay? Teachable moments. That's what that's for. And it doesn't have to be a big long explanation. It can be short and sweet. Okay? Now, to help you with that, I have a couple of books that I want to refer you guys to, and actually I got these from Greg and Mean Jean, and it's now a joke at our house. Please tell him not to give us any more books. So if I want to torture him, I'll come home and say, oh, I got a new book from Greg and Mean Jean. No! They run. But anyway, this right here, there are 4 stages of these books, okay? Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. You can get these on Amazon. And this is called The Story of Me. And it's the series God's Design for Sex. And this is for ages 3 to 5. It even breaks it down, kind of the ages you need to be going to. I will tell you there is some fairly advanced terminology in here. All scientific, all biblical, and all just how God created things to be. It is good. This is an excellent book. And we actually read this with Catherine and Ethan just in the fall. And so we started at the ages 3 to 5, because I just got these books from Greg and Mean Jean, and we're reading through them, and they're like, yeah. There are also diagrams in here. I mean, it talks about nursing. It talks about changing a diaper. It's very good. It also talks about scientific names of your body parts, proper names of your body parts. So this is ages 3 to 5. This one you read with your kiddos, okay? There's a second one called Before I Was Born, and this one really does get kind of advanced. And it's for ages 5 to 8. I would recommend maybe doing this one, ages 3 to 6 or 7, this first one. This one right here, it's pretty anatomically correct, and even a little more than that. I mean, it's not like over the top, but for a 5-year-old, it might be a little much for them. So I would recommend this one kind of maybe 7 or 8 years old. But it answers, these books right here answer these questions in a very non-awkward way. So, well, there may be one little awkward part. Maybe one little awkward part where my 14-year-old was going, And Ethan was just like folded over giggling. And he was like, stop the madness. I was like, you have to know this. I'm sorry, you have to know this. So, anyway, the story of me before I was born, and when I get to the end of this, I have all of the books in that series listed. They are really, really good. I think the third and fourth, I know the fourth book for sure, your child reads it on their own, you read it on your own, and then you come together and talk about it. I know there are some very advanced things that they address in that 11 to 14-year-old book that would be pretty humiliating and embarrassing for a kiddo to be read to. So they kind of step you down gradually. Okay, school-age children, ages 5 to 10. How old do girls have to be before they can have a baby? And if you have a very in-tune preschooler, you may get this question as well. Why do boys get erections? What is a period? And how do people have sex? Okay, all of these are very normal questions for this age of kid. Okay, they're hearing about it at school. They're hearing their friends say, did you know that you can get pregnant from kissing? Or they're hearing, did you know you can get pregnant from sleeping together? And automatically in their mind, they're thinking, ooh, if I have a friend over and they sleep in my bed, am I going to get pregnant? I mean, that's how their little minds work. And so that's why, I know I'm really drilling this point in, but that's why it's important to be, scientific and be honest and upfront with them. Because they're going to get information from somewhere. And if you guys, do y'all remember back to our class a month ago? Missy had said the first non-anxious person that they hear about sex from is the source that they're going to go to every time. Okay? I want that to be me for my kiddos. And I want us to support each other, as this can be kind of an uncomfortable subject to broach with our kids. Okay? Also, if you remember back to those developmental stages, oh, this is going to take a long time. Maybe I don't want to do that. Those developmental stages of kiddos being curious and experimental, y'all remember that? Ages 0 to 3 or 18 months to 3, that's exactly what they are. They're curious, and guess what? Boys figure out that they have a penis too. And they're curious about it. And they're curious about how their body is made. There's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. And it's normal for girls to be curious about how they're made too. And so I want us to know, because I think this is so important, and how we handle these things with our kiddos, that it's never, ever, ever made to be a dirty thing. Because it can be. And there are things that little ones do that you're like mortified that that's happening, and you're like, what's wrong with my kid? What has happened? Has somebody touched my child? Has this happened? And your mind automatically goes nuts thinking of all the possibilities. Children are curious. They're going to experiment and they're going to explore. Now, where you do need to be concerned is if that becomes a public behavior, a consistent public behavior. Okay, it may happen once or twice, depending on the personality of your child. But if it is a consistent public behavior, you need to start asking questions. Okay, let's see. I lost my train of thought for a second. Let me go through here. Okay, we've got some points to remember. Don't wait to tell your child everything you know about sex in a single conversation. Okay, this is not a one conversation and you're done type thing. This is a lifetime. This is walking with your kids through this conversation, okay? Look for teachable moments. Again, look for teachable moments. Talking about sex and sexuality gives you a chance to share your values and your beliefs with your child. Your child needs to know there's always a reliable, honest source that they can turn to for answers. Okay, going back to who they're going to ask first. Give info on an as-needed basis. And be honest if your child asks questions you can't answer, which I promise will happen because they hear things. They hear things at school that are bizarre and come home and say, what is blah, 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 and you will have no clue. And that's when you turn to your Urban Dictionary. Not really, probably not the best source to quote, but anyway, if you don't know the answer, it's okay. It's all right for your kids to see that, all right? Okay, resources. I gave some of these resources last time for parents because we talked a little bit about what we bring with us, okay? Any of these books or this Focus on the Family, and I actually put the whole thing on there because it's pretty detailed. So I know that's a long, what is that called? Site? Link. I know that's a long link, but that will get you directly to where you need to go, okay? Did y'all get it? Okay, yeah. All right, resources for the kiddos. That's these books right here, okay? I only have 1 and 2. I will be getting 3 and 4 soon from Greg and Mean Jean. Okay? All right. Do you guys have any questions? Do you have any comments? Do you have Casey?
We have obviously mixed gender children in our home, and I can't remember who it was that said it a few weeks ago, but I heard somebody say that it's very important that the person that gives the information to the child needs to be same gender as possible.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
What I was going to ask is what you do if the parent that connects the best with that child is not same gender. Because we have it both ways in our house. Some of our boys connected with Kristen. I sometimes connected with How do I need to default when Emma Kate asks questions? And say, you know what, your mom talked to you about that, or vice versa when the boys ask me some questions?
That's a good question. I think you go with what the natural instinct is. And if you know, and we have that in our house. Todd and Catherine connect really, really well. And they can have conversation. However, when coming up with questions, she will approach me. So I feel like naturally, it will change. And once again, I know I said this in our first class, I am nowhere near the expert. I am like the least whatever person on this panel. I don't even know what a link is. And so I want you guys to know I'm walking this with you. And if there is something that you have that's working great in your house, feel free to share. What I'm sharing is a little bit of both, a little bit of book knowledge, quote, and a little bit of what we have experienced with having such a big age range. But we've noticed the same thing in our house, but when it comes to talking about parts or asking questions about babies or sex or what someone said to them at school, they have typically gravitated toward same gender. So Catherine would come to me and Ethan would go to Todd. So, anything else? Any other questions?
That isn't something you need to stress over, and just how it worked out naturally.
Yep. Yep. Once again, the music we play. So how we approach it. A couple of other resources I want to throw out for you guys. I referenced this one last time, but this is an actual curriculum to go through. It's kind of like for churches or for large group type ideas, but it's really good for if you want to go through it with your kiddos, just like at your house. So this is K through 1. This is 4th through 6th. Okay, this kind of covers like 2nd and 3rd grade too, I would say. I wouldn't like approach this with 2nd and 3rd. So might be a little deep for them. Also, this book right here, Talking to Your Kids About Sex. I have a copy, Adam has a copy, Greg has a copy. I think every minister on staff has a copy of this. You're more than welcome to borrow this. And this actually is really good. Some of those morbid questions that we have in our mind, thinking like, oh my goodness, what's wrong with my kiddo? Or what is something wrong with my kiddo? Or is that perfectly normal for my kid to be doing this? This answers those questions in a very good, clear way. So this is also a very good book.
Hey Mary,
yes.
because when you look up Talking to Your Kids About Sex, like 15 books pop up.
Okay, Mark Laser, I think is how you say his last name. Is that right? Mark Laser. Laaser. So, also a couple of books, and I'm just going to reference these quickly because April will go into these further. This book right here, this is actually produced by Beth Robinson. If any of you guys know her, she's great. She is out of Lubbock Christian, and she lives in Lubbock, and she works with troubled teens that have been sexually abused, and she helps to rehabilitate them. But she is also an advocate for talking to your kids early on, and she's just a really good resource. But she made this coloring book called God Made Me, the Safe Touch Coloring Book. If you guys want these, I can just call her and ask her to send us a shipment of them. It goes through and just talks about, what God created, and some parts, there are good touches and there are bad touches, and what areas become a bad touch or a not okay touch. And I really like how she addresses that, and this book as well addresses it. This is called Some Parts Are Not for Sharing, and it's a little fish, and I love both of these books. Talk about how if it's covered by a swimsuit, it's not okay for sharing. That part is not okay for sharing, and that's a really good practical way for kiddos to know, okay, that's a swimsuit area and that's not okay. So anyway, these are just a few. I mean, there's millions, like you said, there are millions of resources. When you type in talking to your kids about sex, tons of stuff comes up. So if you guys have questions or anything after, feel free to stay around. Feel free to come up and look at these. I do want you guys to get one of these if you'd like one. As you exit, I'll put them back here underneath the cork board. And I really appreciate y'all coming out tonight, and I appreciate that we are on this journey together. It's not easy, and that's why it takes a lot of us supporting one another and just kind of cheering each other on.